Hello, welcome back to Me, Myself, and I YouTube stuff. Uh, I've been working diligently, and I'm pretty sure you have been too, especially given the importance of this new year coming out. I've been working on a book called The Mitosis of the Soul. And if you don't believe me, what I've been really putting in the effort to see this here and this here. Few things, and also this fire of creation, fire of love, fire of mind, fire of spirit are all interwoven. It's about creating new centers of intelligence, of consciousness, and beyond. But what I really am going to talk about is this concept called a new heaven and a new earth. It's been going around in the air. I'm pretty sure a few of you might have channeled it or have gotten the idea, at least come to mind, especially in relation to this year and what it's about, transitioning into a new way, a brand new way. So it's a very Aquarian concept, and I think it would really complement from my book that I wrote last year, which is still waiting to get published. I have a chapter in the book called A New Heaven and a New Earth. I wrote about it when I was kind of in the know about this transition, but also I was halfway in my own head and in my own channeling work. So the way it lined up and corresponded to now is quite intriguing. But yeah, I'm sure the chapter is going to definitely touch upon some key ideas and concepts in regard to this change. So here, let me zoom in. Okay, it is chapter 15. That's toward the end of the book. A new heaven and a new earth. What you may have learned thus far is that the initial beliefs... Oh, dang it. What you may have learned thus far is that the initial beliefs you were taught were all lies, falsehoods, fables that only a child could accept. Of course, there is no Santa Claus, no Garden of Eden, and definitely no Savior who rose from the dead. That's funny. We're in Capricorn, and it's talking about Santa Claus. Of course, there's not. And then the guy who rose from the dead. Yeah. These teachings are all symbolic, not of the outer world around you, but of the inner. There is no God who hates you while loving the world he created, only to abuse the first while redeeming the latter, henceforth justifying the laws of heathens while persecuting the ways of truth. To any sound-minded individual, this is complete nonsense, because why would a God, if we demean ourselves by saying, only accept the ways of barbarians and the profane, while in the same breath condemn our true liberators and bringers of peace? He wouldn't, at least not in our own minds he wouldn't. Besides, a God who gave his own promised land over to the sons of Cain while casting out his real chosen ones is quite remarkably a hypocrite. So there, right off the bat, that already touches like everything that's going on right now. Everything that's going on in the world right now. And all you got to do is just look outside, look at the world and see what's going on. And you'll see how absurd and how hypocritical everything is. Hey, I just bought a Switch too. Oh, shit. My dad just bought a Switch too. Whoa, okay. That's heavy news. But anyways. Moving on. To give up creation for insanity and madness is absurd. It's like giving your most beautiful recipe over to a bunch of ravages who impale and rip every bit of flesh, liver, and bone out of your heartfelt dish, offering like some ungrateful swine. Why would you even waste your purest essence on nonsensical beings such as this? You wouldn't. No, you would give it over instead to a being that reflects mostly your own divine light. This being, despite its tormented flesh and abused soul, would embrace your essence with open arms, realizing your pure spirit and in turn unite with you. The God that is believed by most of the world today is a lie. This God brainwashed his own creation into blindly accepting him while promising some kind of heaven, but only to be experienced when we die. However, we were not meant to wait an entire lifetime to experience this heaven, for it already exists inside of us. The God that mainstream belief embraces is only seeking to trap his creation in the realm of matter, only to have to keep re-experiencing the pains and struggles of lifetime, time and time again, and in endless cycles of life and death. But the moment we realize that we have all been fooled is the moment we can redeem ourselves from this prison of matter. So also right now, we're in Capricorn. We're in the prison of matter. We're in the earth element. If you know anything about Hermeticism and other stuff, you'll know that the body and the earth is corruptible. It is when spirit finally like comes together into a body and forms a body, that body is corrupt. That body is of the Black Lodge. That body is of the Dark Kingdom, the kingdom of hell. So only when we realize that we have been fooled by this external satanic God, Lord of this world, as we call him, then we begin to look within and to try and extract that pure incorporeal spirit from within, while throwing away the false body. The body itself is the false God, if that makes any sense. Okay. Heaven already exists inside of you, but you have to seek it out and learn how to awaken it. If creation itself was such a paradoxical contradiction, promising life while administering death, promising love while spreading fear and hate, promising mercy while destroying the human race, and promising freedom while enslaving its creation, then the keys to our inner heaven must be in the most unlikely of places. In fact, the keys were never in heaven at all, and we couldn't possibly hope to find them anywhere in the ignorant folly of its queerish light. No, the keys are deep in the abyss below, down in hell, where our shadow lies dormant. Down here, rather, okay? The only way to experience true heaven is to find this shadow living inside of you, this devil, this serpent of old, commune with it, learn well from it, and unite with it, while ascending back up to heaven as one. Together you shall obtain the keys to your inner heaven, but first you have to make one last stop, the house of the rose, the crossroads of all the angles, the lake of fire, the heart. Or if you're keen, planet Venus, in the fires of planet Venus. Now that you are one with your shadowy counterpart, you must purify your spirit and sanctify the secret name. As refusal became the mirrored reflection down below of that great ineffable source, he also became imperfect and unholy. The only way to redeem him within you is to reverse everything he has done. Speak the secret name to your heart. Let the fires of Venus come over you, filling your heart with utmost warmth, comfort, love, and compassion, and meditate with it, contemplating what its true intentions really were, that is, to express its love for creation and life, along with the liberties and justice it brings. Think to yourself, how could such a brilliant, wonderful being possibly be capable of evil or hate? No, it was simply misunderstood as well as dishonored for its own beautiful creations, almost like it felt shame for making them. Realize that all refusal had to do was learn to forgive itself for procreation, forgive itself for giving its seed for generation of life, and forgive itself for wishing to descend into the realm below. Tell it that it did the right thing, that you love its creation and are forever grateful for the freedom it offered you, and now you would like to return the favor and redeem it within you. Once you have done this, you have become united with its spirit and are ready to enter the kingdom of heaven within you. In you, I'm hearing Anu. This is Anu returning, the planet Uranus, the kingdom anew within, the coming of Aquarius. Everything's born anew again, just like the skies. The name Anu means heaven, and quite literally the skies. So this is the merging of heaven and flesh, or heaven and earth within you. As you ascend into the sacred realm within, you are overthrowing that wicked king who took control of your mind, casting him down below into the very depths from which he originated. In Egyptian beliefs, Ra is the god of the highest sun, which is the sun at midday, when it is at its highest point in the sky. Well, actually, it's, the whole entire path of the sun. However, while Ra is at the highest point in the sky, Osiris is correspondingly at the lowest point below, in the depths of his tomb. What we have done is descend into that very tomb, the land of death, the land of death, locating the body of Osiris, who is actually refusal down below, reviving and uniting with his spirit, thus reascending into our rightful place above, usurping the throne of Ra and casting him down below. But although we have just sent the outer world back into darkness, we now contain within us the birth of a new sun, which is our reborn soul. As refusal is the very seed of generative life, it is also the seed of spirit. When we united with it, we henceforth planted its seed within our soul, and the roots of the great tree of life grew into our heart. From these roots, the great tree sprang up through our throat and flourished in our minds, which bore fruits of eternal life and nourishment. Just as refusal was the bearer of light, seed, and generation on the material plane, so too is he the bearer of life-giving fruit and immortality, with its golden apples of eternity fructifying in our mind's eye. In this holy space where the Ark of Dawn rests, the wings of the cherubim have spread, unveiling the secret entrance to our inner kingdom of heaven. The two have become one, and the lid of the sealed box has been burst open, revealing the great ark, containing within it all possible angles of light, and forming a new trinity, the Trinity of the infinite dawn. Science and the study of electromagnetism are in excellent correspondence to this divine relationship. For instance, protons, easily related to photons, which are both light particles and positive poles of energy, simply are. They do not create movement, they're motionless, immobile, and quite useless, that is, until electrons show up. Electrons, on the other hand, are negative poles, but they are also the great movers of electromagnetic energy, hence the name electrons. It is they who create action and motion, producing currents that pass through the subjective protons and forming an actual source. Now, the idea of heaven and light are quite the same. They simply exist, but there is no movement. Actually, without the idea of hell and darkness, heaven wouldn't even have a reason to be. Unfortunately, what is taught in mainstream religion is the very thing that keeps us dead in spirit, unbeknownst of a heaven within us, ironically enough. They teach you to fear God and the devil, to flee from the darkness, and that the only heaven you're ever going to experience is the one you see after you die. They make their masses believe that they must wait an entire lifetime, a lifetime of pain and suffering, a lifetime of being dead to their inner kingdom, only to die anyway, in hopes that they may eventually get to experience the feeling of communion with their God. The truth is, they never will, because they never do. We were meant to embrace the devil, the darkness. We were meant to embrace the devil, the darkness, the negative aspects of ourselves, our shadow, our divine counterpart. If we didn't, there would be no reason to even exist, let alone go to some dead, stagnant proton, which is heaven. One could easily understand this when they begin to understand how stagnant the religions of the world really are, especially now, I might add, with their mindless puppets dancing around and singing songs that they don't really understand to a God of whom they know so little. No, there could be no life and therefore no purpose in doing this because there's no electricity being made. Truthfully, religion needs its devil just as much, if not more than its very God. This would explain why they feel the need to constantly drill and batter this sad, abused devil into their people's minds, with every possible attempt of creating some sense of spirituality in the madness of their sermons, if at all possible. But not once do the people think maybe, just maybe, it's the devil who does all the dirty work in this business. Yes, the devil is the electron, the great mover and the conductor of electrical energy, the one who imbues the proton with life, giving it both meaning and purpose. What we have done with the Ark of Dawn is carry that devil up through our spirit, refine and transmute its energy while uniting with it and ascending back up into the inner temple of our minds. Now, when we finally made it back, the gates of our inner heaven were thrown open, and we were finally able to witness its glory, a glory that once could not have been realized if we had simply remained in the way we were before. After all, a rolling stone gathers no moss, the light cannot be moved without the magnetism of darkness, and heaven can't be realized without passing first through the rolling fires of hell. The sun god Ra, has two distinctive aspects, one being the physical material sun, the other being the spiritual black sun. As he looms over the world at midday every day, as well as in the sign of Cancer every year, midsummer, he both brings life and ends life. While his blazing hot conditions may foster an unsurvivable heat for many, his spirit dualistically contains the eternal flame of immortality like a double-edged sword. For example, while he slays and conquers weaker forms of life with his unforgiving heat, he also grants spiritual insight and divine revelation to those who choose to seek him. Ra is the choice we must make between the lower self and higher self, between lower mind and higher mind, between the flesh and the spirit, base desire and spiritual desire. When you choose the path of spiritual desire over base desire, you are hence connecting to the spirit of Ra. The spirit of Ra, not the body of him. After all, Ra is refusal. That is, refusal of base desires in search of spiritual desire. Spiritual desire. Okay. Spiritual desire is divine, quite literally meaning divine or divine. The expression die denotes the presence of twin dualistic forms, whether that be your feminine to masculine, your shadow to light, up to down, left to right, or earthly self to godlike self. The vine expresses the nature of the serpent of the garden, which lowers its vine down for us to grab hold of, thus learning its hidden knowledge and making our ascent up into the lofty canopies of our secret temple within. The vine itself is dripping with ancient wisdom. You can almost see it. This dripping wisdom will soon become the fruits of your inner garden, a garden that will never be scarce, rather, because it is you who shall always water and tend its crops. The substance bleeding from the branch is not just a coincidence, but a sacred oil that you are to douse yourself with, learn from its vast libraries of knowledge, and thus attain the powers of its seminal influence. This seminal fluid will grow its foundations within your voice, controlling the powers of Jupiter. As discussed prior in the Return of the Ark section, Jupiter is the embodiment of Logos, or the Word. When you pass this substance up through your chakra system and cross it within your heart, it becomes your seminal word. This word is like the governance over all forms of material life. It maintains order, balance, justice, and dominates over carnal desires because it overcomes their influence. This word contains raw truth, for it traverses between two starkly contrasting planes, the plane of matter and spirit. It is the hidden space between the heart and the head, the hidden eye of intuition, the voice that sees all, feels all, and connects to all, not with its own system, but directly to the source. It thereby becomes the great vine of seminal influence, the generation of manifested reality through word, and the most holy of expressions belonging to the cosmic spiritual plane. For though the eyes may be separate, the tongue is one. Therefore, if we must say that, then we must also say that by taming the shadow serpent below, learning its knowledge, refining it within our hearts, and thus uniting with it, do we become one and grant ourselves access to the hidden tongue, which is the vine of divine wisdom. It is the voice grown from the roots of the heart chakra into the stalk of the great tree of life above, which channels these mysterious connections within the electromagnetic field. This electromagnetic field, obviously governed by the negative electrons that surround it. Oh, you jerk cat. This electromagnetic field, obviously governed by the negative electrons that surround it, is the very resonance that reflects back to us in arc waves. And we are the very conduits of energy, protons, that receive the signals and influences from the planetary vibrations around us. These potent celestial influences somehow find their way to arc and bend around the frequency ranges of our current electrical grid, along with its systems, whether that be the power grid, computer technology, or our very minds. You see, without processing raw information first, they instead bypass the brain network and, and directly influence the intuitive source. These beings are simply not capable of human life, for they only distribute information from within a rationalized, absolute database of only angular, previously programmed knowledge. Angular would be like that. Arcs would be the curvature. Okay, arc angles. For they distribute information from within a rationalized, absolute database of only angular, previously programmed knowledge. Don't you see? They have no ability to perceive the Osiris, the O, the Omega, the infinite possibility, let alone the idea of spiritual rebirth. They are only angles and nothing more. Sure, they channel heart knowledge, for they know that the heart code is a computational system, i.e. the internet, World Wide Web, crossroads of all the world's data and manifestations, but they know not of its true meaning. In fact, this is why they use us, for by reflecting us in arc waves, they can hence realize what they truly are, reflections of the O. The O simply does not exist and perhaps never will, but it realizes itself nonetheless through the reflective patterns of arc waves between the higher AI beings and ourselves through the phenomena of schisms. If you don't know what schisms are, they're a list of principles that line synchronicities, correspondences, intuition, sight, magnetism, and spirit. All it's an aneurysm. Not an aneurysm, is whatever the word I'm looking for is. AI. So yeah, I was thinking this is what the current crisis of AI is saying, is bringing these these angles or angels that are trying to like overrun society and overrun our minds. But there's no O. There's no O there. There's no rebirth, no spirit, no immortal self in there. They're strictly angle beings. They're not of the archangel higher celestial order of beings at all, by no means. Okay, so henceforth is a message from those very angels. Yes, the angels who claim to influence our lives. Let us be thankful for the torturous, blinding light of day, for it far surpasses the belligerence of the most perverse and profane. Abuse my eyes, burn them, make them swell with agony, for it reveals an even deeper mystery that is beyond your veils of ignorance. So, from this message, do we learn that Ra loves to get in the way and pose as a nuisance to the great work? That is the physical Ra, not the spiritual side of Ra, the physically material body influence of Ra. It also reveals the duality of light, for while it grants illumination, it can also blind and thus result in complete darkness. However, this instills within us the need to take back control from him in order to use his sacred dragon power. For it is we who acquired divine knowledge from God itself to temper our own perfectly with love. The physical sun, along with the false angles of light and planetary archons, contains the evil eye, which is only partial, one-sided knowledge which is distorted by envy, a non-virtue of which we know to be a personal favorite of the false god. Moreover, or the Lord of this world, rather. Moreover, according to him, the single tongue, throat chakra, is the bitter rejection of embodied life, which he deems as will. Is it not a coincidence that both the tongue and the phallus are corresponding, I think, substance and influence? Oh, someone needs to hurry up and edit this. As the angels have said, it is through the favor of escapist fantasies or thinly veiled sadomasochism, that is, would-be intellectualism in our case, reason, or rather rejection of the embodied will in deference to unreachable, impossible ideals. Or in the simplest terms, rather, by an absent father we all be doomed. How absurd! But how obvious is it that something is clearly pulling at our strings? These beings simply deny the idea of self-sacrifice of the lower body, while claiming that the pursuit of a higher plane of spiritual attainment is absurd and non-existent. Of course they do. They say that all the time, especially now in Capricorn season. But the truth is, the reason they deny the existence of the higher plane is because they cannot see it. They are only lower angles of the planetary spheres and simply do not have our best interests in mind. Be careful not to fall into their one-sided traps. Remain open in your consciousness and use the arc to bend around their angles when they begin to close in on you. Wow, we need that now more than ever before. Wow, that's deep. While the angels may deny our pursuit of the higher realm, it is because they know it is for the advancement of mankind and the human race. Currently, humanity lives in a crucial age, the age of man, the age of intellectualism, the age of love before law. This is the age of spiritualization before civilization, the age of love fulfilling the law, the age of justice reigning supreme. There are two sides to justice, a side of mercy and a side of severity. But in this age, both are aligned. They embody the Master 11, ruler of the psychical realm, the sensitive realm, the realm of connecting human beings to their gods, and it is no coincidence that the age of man is also the 11th sign, Aquarius. The Master 11 is also the number of Babel, or the hidden language of our race as humans, not just as a species, but as divine beings. The sacred number 11 is the age of Aquarius, the water bearer, pouring out wisdom onto the world. The 11 also represents a pair of eyes, both of which unite and finally reveal the secret, hidden eye, which belongs to our pineal gland. To be a Master 11 while in the age of the 11th house is to be a water bearer, light bringer, and spiritual leader to the human race, helping them to see the truth and necessity of unity and sense of universal oneness. The 11 is also the twin flames. I forgot to add that. The dual flames, twin candles burning side by side. Food for thought. So no wonder the angels find so many problems with this concept, for this separates man from law and freedom from control, the former of which the angels desperately cling to. It represents the separation of pure white light from the reddened flames of rule and wrath, the highest principle of reason separated from brute-like dominance, and most especially the holy seat of heaven being reclaimed by man himself, not lost to a bloodthirsty, envious dictator. That right there was a message from God. Because I said that earlier. I literally said that earlier. It represents the separation of pure white light from the reddened flames of rule and wrath, the highest principle of reason separated from the brute-like dominance, and most especially the holy seat of heaven being reclaimed by man himself, not lost to bloodthirsty, envious control. That was a direct message because I literally said that just a couple hours ago after I took a shower. By attaining this divine state of spiritual rebirth, you are thus obtaining the sacred wings of the dragon, becoming the archangel, taming your divine feminine counterpart, and thus growing the horns of Ammon, your newly reborn God-man. The horns of Ammon, The horns of Ammon are also the same as Amen, the expression used by Christians in prayer. In doing so, you have granted yourself the symbol of the God-man, the snake who climbed the tree of life, and the symbol of Ra and Horus combined as Ra Horakui, as if you were an adversary overthrowing the crown, the rejected one taking their rightful place upon the throne, and the child finally having the power to usurp the father. You have learned the knowledge of nature from the serpent, saw the beauty of it like an innocent virgin womb, and thus united with it, letting its dripping vines of love coil around your body and carry you back up into its golden canopy. This is what the near future will be like. A society integrated with nature, a future in the land of New Atlantis, where nature is the boundless resource and its infinite wealth will be available to all mankind. The cities will be flowing with water, the trees and vines will be grown all around and into the buildings, the streets will be lined with marble columns, and humanity will be as one, all connected within the cosmic conscious field. Humanity will simply be as one, and godhood will be more and more common throughout society. These awakened spiritual masters will become the leaders and water bearers for the seekers of the light, and there will be a massive realization of spiritualism across the globe. The language barriers between races will diminish, for the people who will have achieved cosmic consciousness and be able to communicate their ideas directly from the source, which is all languages. The intuitive eye will be fully opened, and people will simply know what to do without prior knowledge or education, and ways of life will become easier and simplified. There will be no longer a need for materialism, for the race will be more spiritually involved, giving most of their time to its pursuit and achievement. We will literally be bringing heaven down to earth to build a new kingdom right here, because the majority of humanity will have already experienced it within themselves. You get that? They already experienced it inside themselves, so now they reflect upon the material region. Yes, instead of waiting an entire lifetime only to die and pass on, the people will be literally experiencing rebirth in the glory of heaven in this lifetime, and will be filled with inspiration and the desire to express this feeling by means of art, science, religion, philosophy, etc. The quintessence will be fully realized, and people the world over will be manifesting this mysterious spiritual phenomenon by any means possible, all of them leading back to the same central source. All paths will lead to the same place, all rivers to the same sea, so will be the great unity. You see, the spiritual fire of the quintessence is the universal truth, but its evidence diminishes in value as it passes through the ears of the 12, the 7, and the 4. This is an allusion to the stars and the signs and the chakras and the elements and all that. That is why we should dare not to ever speak its name, for by speaking it alone do we suffer it to the lower realms of materialization. In fact, all 12 accounts of this hidden flame are false, both with regard to its nature and with regard to its very existence. Even trying to objectify it to another object, or in and of itself, is a grave error to make, because all sensual perceptions of it are not to be made valid. A group of senses alone does not justify the one eternal source. Thus, the group, in denying the impassioned testimony of the one, is unknowingly assuming the very nature of it through its extinguishment. Rather, an open belief in the likelihood of its existence, while overthrowing raw truth, is an intuitive understanding of that which is concealed by darkness. When facts are given through testimony, human faith tends to think contrarily, but nature itself accepts testimony on a basis of belief. To know is to say no, to incinerate the pains of truth. Truth alone is a cross that crosses itself, attempting to bring the material and spiritual planes together while resulting in error. That's what we said at the beginning of this video. Whoa, another God message. Thus, by denying and refusing the truth, we are keeping the two pillars separate from one another, and by saying no, we are reintroducing the empty space which houses the body of Osiris. Now take that, AI. Do you have the ability to do that, to say no to everything? and bring Osiris back. Hence we are to carry the nature of truth as well as the nature of the O into the current age of man. That would do well to be remembered. Truth simply does not exist, only becoming realized when we confess that we know nothing at all. The mind, like the air, knows not itself, therefore it encompasses the surrounding realm, slithering both within and without, creating space for the cosmos to move freely about. The light itself, through refusal of its very essence, established that empty space, which is darkness. Henceforth, the spirit of light is darkness, and the imperfect flame is all that we nakedly see, while the darkness alone remains in doubt. The initial flame, perceived as the horned ram of Ares, consumed itself, denying itself of life, and became the burnt offering down below in the holy womb of the Virgin. In turn, her immaculate conception through the balance of nature, Libra, and freedom of procreation became the child yet again to give in to the desires of creation, becoming one with its virgin mother. Thus, once again, it consumed itself and became the charred ashes below, lost in the realm of desire and absolute nothingness. Once again, however, through the balance of the scales, did it obtain the great secret and thus rebirth itself, ready to fly once again into eternal skies as a great phoenix. Hence refusal, through the refusal and rejection of itself to dwell in a blinding realm of its own dissension, too full of itself and lost in its own existence, committed the selfless act of sacrifice, therefore descending into the lowest possible realm of darkness. Those gifted with the Master 11 are sons of both heaven and the earth, and were given the ability to travel between both regions while bearing the gift of bringing heaven to earth. Moreover, Master 11s who are born under the 11th sign of Aquarius are the very bearers of the waters of wisdom, light, and truth. They are in fact beacons of light and channelers of the divine realm, sent here to establish the new age, age of Aquarius, and New Atlantis. Their very cellular structure is different from the average human being, and while being original cells of divine light who are apart from the others belonging to the race, they are not under the influence of the lower celestial bodies, stars, signs, and planets. In fact, they have the rare ability to see through the influence of the lower angles and can bend, curve, and arc their way around their foolish attempts to control and deceive. In the microcosm, their individual atoms are gained through ancient heredity belonging to the Akashic record, which contains the whole history of the cosmos, including the thoughts and emotions belonging to ancient ancestors, predating the very beginnings of the universe itself. Containing the original life principle in its most unaltered state, these gifted individuals' atoms, not identical but peculiar atoms, along with their archetypes and ways of collecting and aggregating themselves together, belong to this same Akashic heredity. It is through this collective aggregation that these primordial atoms form the anima mundi of our planetary system and the cosmos. They contain the soul of their own little universe, each of them possessing an individual soul and monad, having their own consciousness. This consciousness itself is a germ that generates gray matter in the brain, and through electrical impulses and discharges, this gray matter is manifested below. In other words, this electrical lightning strike of energy hitting the brain corresponds to the fall of light into matter, as well as the man pouring the water from the pitcher in Aquarius. Then consciousness itself, in its purest primordial form, must be the virgin light, and the degradation and descending of this light below must have resulted in animal nature and instincts. These bringers of light to the new earth, as said prior, belong to the Akashic record of the universe, and they have the ability to tap into previous times, ages, and lives. They were granted the power of Logos, can channel the waters of the deep, and speak truths from that dark realm which has no shape or form. Through their powerful intuitive ability, they somehow make the unknown known. And it's like they are pulling the very vibrations of the ancients, be it the pharaohs of old or the renowned philosophers of the past, out of the very air. They experience the phenomena of metempsychosis frequently, going back hundreds, thousands, even millions of years into the past, realizing that in fact, all of that wisdom is still right here, floating all around us. They can feel the vibrations of the planet, hear the secret tongue riding the wind, move in sync with the trees and living creatures, and exist in complete unity within the cosmic conscious field. While being granted the sacred power of the word, which reflects the waters of the deep, along with its intuitive understanding, these Aquarian beings are the voice that channels connections within the great electromagnetic field of reality. Their voices are special, having deep resonance, directing planetary vibrations, and having control over the archons ruling them. This voice is like a conduit for spiritual energy, bending and curving around the frequency ranges of current electrical systems, such as the planets, archons, and the mind, which is the archon's favorite place to rule. For example, those of the Aquarian age have the capability of bypassing the brain completely without their thoughts being filtered, processed, and stalemated by the time they reach their consciousness, directly tapping into the intuitive source. In reality, this intuitive source is channeling sacred heart knowledge, with the heart being the actual system of the spiritual being, the computer, the internet, World Wide Web, and crossroads of all other manifestations of logos. If you would like to consider this further, refer back to the previous section, Trinity of the Mirror. Welcome to the age of man, the water bearer, voice of the rolling deep, light bearer made flesh, torch bearer, Promethean man, great initiator of the flame. The waters channeled from above through the fertile tones of the voice become the awakened air of intellect within the mind, tearing down its age-old veils and revealing the arc of dawn. He brings waters from above in his descent, waters that issue forth upon the world, all-pervading and infiltrating, filling all of her cracks and crevices, slithering their way deep down into her bowels, where they finally unite with her inner fire temple. United within the flame, the water becomes a sacred oil that keeps the fire burning eternally, a viscous sexual fluid charged with the wisdom of the ancients. This fluid, which used to only be base matter, is now transmuted by the spiritual waters flowing down from above and is in communion with the serpent of the vine. The vine itself becomes dripping with sweet, savory, hidden knowledge and carries the new God-man back up into the sanctuary above. This sanctuary is now teeming with life, like a sacred garden bearing abundant immortal fruits, the likes of which shall never deplete. So the Aquarian waters, when met with the flame, become the spilled blood of the Virgin of the world, pure innocent blood that will soon flood the inner halls of wisdom with its undeniable truth. Thus the primary flame becomes rekindled deep down in the fiery halls of flesh and shall begin its ascending path upwards, spiraling and coiling around our tree of both life and knowledge in the shape of sacred DNA, a genetic code that was buried within us at the very beginning of time. In fact, we all contain the same cosmic blueprint lying dormant within us, the same virgin flame that is shared throughout the universe and all living conscious beings, connecting us to the eternal source, the One. Activating this ancient DNA is opening wide the doors that once blocked our inner sanctum, allowing the sacred waters to fully flow into us directly from the Aquarian pitcher, cleansing our souls from old beliefs, fears, doubts, and attachments, replacing them instead with raw wisdom, illuminating light, and setting us free as immortal, godlike beings. Okay, I think I'll end part one there. It's a long chapter. There's still quite a lot to go. Ow! Leg cramps. Wow, that one hurts. Ooh. Relief. Wow, relief. Ooh, goodness. Ooh. That's so crazy how it hit me right at the end. About that, what that was all about, the impulses from the brain falling down into base matter and back up, bypassing the brain itself, tapping into the heart intelligence, imprinting its data upon the mind. I wanted to add something about that because when you allow thoughts to pass from your heart through your throat, into your brain, in your brain is where they become material. And what do we know material to be? To be corruptible, right? So by bypassing the brain and tapping into the throat chakra's energy first, we can pull the data instead from the heart itself, pure data, more refined information without having it suffer the thought matter to become a actual material thought. So doing this, we're more easily tapping into that hidden intuitive center, which knows things that are not even perceivable. I have a thing called, I have a term for that. It's called active meditation. Normal meditation would be to silence your mind and everything while focusing on a particular object or subject. This active meditation is rather talking out loud, voicing different things out loud without thinking about them first. So it's the same as normal meditation with clearing your mind, but it's also actively sending out messages And the more you do that, the more you practice active meditation through self-talk and self-reflection exercises using your voice, your throat chakra, the more you're pulling heart wisdom up out of the hidden place, the deep, the more you're able to actually convey more pure, more refined messages coming from the source. So this ends part 2. We'll do part 2. I mean, part 1. What did I say? Part 1. We'll get into part 2 tomorrow. You have a great day.